All right, so our organizers this morning, we have 5 people that make this possible every single week. We have Philip Baird, Craig Jameson, Jennifer Simpson DeCamp, Deb Bellotti, and myself. You guys are going to be really tired of hearing from me at the end of today, but Deb Bellotti has been with us since the very beginning, and we're going to send her off properly, and LaDonna Granger will be joining us as one of the organizers. So make sure you welcome her when you see her outside, and give her a big round of applause right now. Why not? Yeah. Of course, our sponsors, myself, Brick and Mortar Coffee, Database Systems, the Springfield Art Museum for hosting this wonderful space, Spark Events, Bryce over here, mixing it up, scratching. Oh, missed your cue. There we go. Then, of course, we want you guys to connect with us. Social media is just one way in addition to being here every week. We love having you. Comment, share, like, subscribe to all of our things. We always keep our Twitter feed over here on the far left, so you can tweet throughout the presentation, something you like, something that you find interesting, something you want to share with others. You can check out last week's presentation on the 1 Million Cup Springfield YouTube page. And then the Medium, we have the Refill Station blog that Nathan has been doing a great job with. Today, of course, like I said, you're going to be tired of hearing from me. We have Brick and Mortar is going to do our refill, give you guys a little update on where we are since we presented our very first time. And then SL Speech and Language Solutions will be kicking us off this morning. So come on up and we'll give a big round of applause.
How does this work?
It should work.
Good morning. So I am Shannon Locke with SL Speech and Language Solutions, and this is the first time I've used the clicker, so let's see. Yay, it works, that's awesome. Okay, so many of you may recognize me. I've been attending 1 Million Cups for about a year and a half, and I just love this opportunity. And in that time, I've gained a bit of a reputation for asking questions. I tend to always have a question to ask. So really, my business is to give the answers. So I feel like, who better to have the answers than the one willing to ask the questions, right? So SL Speech and Language Solutions, I offer corporate and family consultation to develop or enhance your communication programs and navigate disability systems. So this really is a fairly innovative business because, to my knowledge, I'm the only one of its kind. So that makes it fairly innovative, I think so. Providing consultation, education, and advocacy services. Part of the reason it is so innovative and the only one of its kind is because that consultation, advocacy, and educational programming for families and corporate really is not reimbursable through insurance. So no one else is doing it. So this is a private pay only company. And I do specialize in speech and language development as well as disorders and autism spectrum disorder. So before we talk too much about the business, I want to tell you a little story about why we have the business. Oh, see, I jinxed it. Okay, so my story. Why did I create? There we go. Why did I create this business in the first place? My story really begins 25 years ago. I promise I'm not going to talk you through 25 years. That would just really be boring. This was a story when I was in high school. I worked with a gentleman at a summer camp for individuals with disabilities. This gentleman's name was David. And David had autism and was attending our adult vacation. And everyone was a little upset with David because David, like many individuals with autism, had a strict adherence to rules and routines. And his rule and routine was that, and remember, we're at this adult vacation summer camp, so we have these big shared bathrooms. And his routine, don't get scared. His routine was that the toilet paper rolls, if they had been used, he wanted to replace them with a brand new one. So you can imagine on Monday of adult vacation, we're already going through like 10 rolls of toilet paper because he's throwing them away as soon as somebody starts to use them and pulling down our new ones, and everyone was in a panic. What I realized in working with David was I first, in order to fix that situation, I had to figure out how David was communicating. I had to figure out what he was thinking, what his rule was. Why was he wanting to replace the toilet paper rolls like that all of the time? So I needed to learn his language in order to teach him mine. And what I realized from that was that, it makes sense. I think I'll become a speech-language pathologist. So if I'm going to learn others' languages, that seemed like the best way to do that for me. So I was successful with David because I could interpret what was going on with him because I took the time to discover what he was thinking in making that decision. So we ended up with a happy David and a happy camp, by the way. So we'll fast forward 25 years. So 25 years later, I did go through and did my bachelor's and master's degree both at MSU, it was SMS at the time, along with my clinical fellowship here in Monette Schools. I did work about 10 years total in public schools, including consultation for school programs, contract service, and full-time. I worked in a private clinic and hospitals. I built the Ozarks Area Autism Clinic, which is a multidisciplinary autism assessment program. I also, from that, we generated enough business that we developed the pediatric therapy department, so I became the director of pediatric therapy services, because now we had a department. Now I teach at MSU. I have a group of my students here today, so yay. And I have 2 family members also with intellectual disabilities, adults struggling to navigate all of these different services. What I realized from all of that is I had a pretty unique set of skills and a unique mission. My concept to discover and to find out their language before I can teach them mine seems to be fairly unique in my career. So who else is doing something like that? Well, I couldn't find anyone. Who else has all of the background in the medical and the community-based and the family home and the school-based program to help families and help corporates build comprehensive programs of development for communication? So just like the Ozark Area Autism Clinic, I created that clinic because there was a gap. We were sending our students to Kansas City and St. Louis. So I found a gap here in services for families and corporations, so build a business to create that. So here we have SL Speech and Language Solutions, where I can take the time to discover the whole story, because how many of you all have been to the doctor and you had like 15 minutes with the doctor, right, to find out what was going on? How many of you have been to the doctor and you had like 2 hours to really get the whole picture? Very few. I love direct primary care, by the way. That's a possibility there. However, it really isn't a possibility for our families with children receiving therapy services. So that's something that I have the ability to do, and use evidence-based practice. Like I said, I'm involved in the university, so evidence-based practice is important to me. Okay, so I have this idea that's terrific. Now what? I'm a clinician. I don't know how to run a business. What the heck? Okay. So we start thinking about, I need to make a plan, right? Okay. I need a startup budget, right? Okay. I don't really have any of that. So I started accessing as many resources as I could and finding answers. And as far as the startup budget goes, what my husband and I had to do was figure out how I could not work anymore. So while I haven't invested any initial startup capital on my own, I no longer have an income. I work per course at the university, and I tried to do some part-time things, but what I found was I was really disjointed. I wasn't able to really fully think about building a new business from scratch and do another job at the same time. So I had to build a team, and I hired a business coach. Again, I don't know a whole lot about what I'm doing here. So I hired a business coach. Thank you, Laura Newman and 0 to 60 Coaching, to help me figure out pricing and packaging. So this is what I have now. Through my business, I offer a 4-step process. Starts with that discovery session, goes on to a personalized solution plan, solutions in action, and your debrief for finally, yay, the little happy guy down there. This total 4-step plan is a guided personalized solution, or your GPS, right, to navigate communication development and disorders and find peace of mind. So a little bit more about the discovery session. It's really just that question answer, the time when I discover your story. The personalized solution is then a written plan with prioritized and specialized steps and referral resources. From there, the solutions and actions, a 6-month consultation period where I'll hold your hand through that process and help educate your staff as needed. And then the debrief is let's just check and see where we are at the end. And the bottom line is, at the end of all of this, your business has an expert, a professional in the field that knows your situation. So as things come up in the future, you don't have to go through the whole story over and over again. I'm available. Starting cost for the discovery session for a family plan is $330, and the corporate plan varies. If I have a corporate plan for like a private law office that has just a couple of individuals, that's going to look pretty different from a corporate plan for, say, Mercy, that has a lot more story to discover. So I would love to take any questions. And I expect lots of them. I've asked all of you questions.
All right, everybody, raise your hands. Oh, good.
First, I just really am inspired by your understanding of your own skills and deciding to turn that into a business, and especially understanding people first. That's a huge concept, and I love it. So my question is, how are you marketing yourself?
Yeah, so that's tricky. The first thing that I had to do really was, this is something new. People aren't used to it being available. So really I just had to let people know, hey, I'm here, I'm doing this, I'm available. So that just means being present. And that's really the most of what I've done so far. I'm learning a little bit more about myself to be able to build the business through the business coach, and a little bit more about my marketing kind of personality. I'm not a salesperson, but what I've realized is I know I'm an educator, and I think sales and education are a lot the same. So I can educate you about something to the point that you want to access that, right? That's the same as sales in a way. So I joined some entrepreneurial groups. I attend this as much as I can. I got business cards. I started telling people and just being present at events where individuals and families and industries are serving individuals with disabilities. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is RD. I'm with Mighty Sharp. I'm curious for you to talk maybe a little bit more about the corporate plan.
Sure.
I know more and more, a bigger and bigger portion of the skills needed to do business is pure communication. And
Yeah.
I'm curious if you have examples of what you've done in corporate settings in the past, or what you are planning to offer them.
Yeah, so the corporate plan can look really different depending on what type of industry it is that I'm serving. When I worked for Ozarks Community Hospital, I was just, a speech pathologist, and really it was a total cake job. It was easy. I had very few patients. I was, lollygagging through the day, and I totally ruined that for myself. Because I started looking around, and we have all of these interdisciplinary people that can come together to build a program. So I started pulling the team together. I generated all the paperwork. I put together the system and developed a full-based autism evaluation multidisciplinary program. So in an organization that has access to things like that, program development certainly would be one of the corporate offerings. Another then corporate offering would be like a private daycare or a private preschool that needs to have a little bit of an edge for their bottom line. Then I can go in and I can train all of their staff on appropriate language and literacy development. So that's something they can promote for their business. They have expert consultation in their language and literacy development programming. Mercy, I'm talking to them about insurance billing. So being a part of Director of Therapy Services, OTPT and Speech, I have pretty intimate knowledge about how you bill through insurance for those services and get reimbursement. A lot of times they want to deny service because they say that you can get it at school. School-based services and medically based services are two different animals. They're not the same thing. And you cannot deny medical-based service through insurance because a child accesses services at schools. So a simple letter I could compile and took care of that issue. So there are several different types of corporate plans that I can offer.
Hi, I'm Vince from PostNet. First of all, as someone who has a brother that has learning disabilities and speech problems, I want to say what you're doing is really, really awesome, and I personally appreciate it. Now, my question is, has there been pushback from the medical community for what you are doing and the method and the approach that you're taking towards it?
No, because really my role is not to be a competitor for providers. My role is to be a referral partner for them. So I provided direct therapy services for 20 years, and honestly, I'm tired of doing this, being down on kids' level. I feel like I'm getting a little older. I don't like sitting in those little tiny chairs. My back doesn't like it anymore. So I'm not providing the direct therapy services anymore. And what I also realized was when I was doing that, I could only see so many kids in a week, right? And you see those same kids, especially the ones that I would have, they're in long-term therapy plans. So So I have like 20 kids that I can see for 3 years. That's a pretty short window, and I felt like I had more to offer. So the way I can do that is by educating the educators. So now I can educate the providers and build programs so that more children have access to those kinds of services in a comprehensive way.
Awesome. So I also have a younger brother with autism, and I sympathize with the struggle of dealing with that.
Yeah.
But you say consultation. Do you ever offer like coaching for parents and like family members and stuff to go
Yes.
through and how to better facilitate for their family?
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's the difference between the family plan and the corporate plan. It's all about going in and finding out, what is your situation like? Your child with autism or your brother with autism probably accesses services at school. They may also get some outpatient services. You're probably working with the Regional Center for Community-Based Services and Disability Services. But the issue is there's nobody to tie that all together for you. What does that mean at home? I mean, the teacher can't come to your home and tell you what you should be doing to follow up on what they're doing at school. The outpatient therapist maybe takes 5 minutes at the end of the session to tell you what they worked on today. But there isn't anyone to bring it all together. And what we know from research is that primary caregivers, the parents are the primary caregivers. They are the primary influence in our language development. So they're the ones that need to know. And that's the piece that I want to help fill for them. Yeah.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi.
Have you thought about offering a class for families who think they may have an autistic child or aren't sure? And the second question, do you have any plans to expand this? And are there things like this in other communities?
Sure. So to answer your first question, I would love to offer a class. If you have a space or a place or a group that wants to have the class, just call me. I'd love to come and offer those classes. So yeah, this is part of me. I'm a clinician. I don't know how to be a business person. So I'm learning how to put together seminars and workshops and things like that. So absolutely, I would love to do those. And the problem for me, one of the problems with the business is just narrowing the scope enough, because there are so many things that I want to do. There are so many possibilities, so many needs out there. So it's which seminar or class do I host first? Because that would be one, but I have like 20 other in my head as well. And then your second question, as far as I know, this, like I said, it's an innovative business. I don't know of this happening anywhere else. I do know of some individuals that are offering consultation similar to this, but I don't know of any other individuals with the background of family members and corporate experience and medical experience and educational experience and teaching our providers experience. I'm pretty unique in my skill set and my background. So my goal really is not local. A couple of the family plans that I have done so far have been with individuals in other states. So I did a family plan with a family from Florida that had a daughter suspecting autism, and I did a family plan with a family from Tennessee that had a daughter transitioning to college, and she's deaf, using cochlear implants, and they were trying to figure out and navigate those services. So disability law is disability law nationwide. My services are not limited to our locality. And also, I would love to eventually build so that I can offer either a nonprofit arm or scholarships or something. Because again, my purpose is to fill the gap. So I can fill the gap for those that can afford it, and eventually I'd like to be able to fill the gap for everyone.
Hey, I am so proud that you're going forth on this. It's a real niche that I think is well needed in this area, and I want to commend you for that.
Thank you.
My background is actually in SPED 2. And I understand that's one of the issues that got me actually into the science fields, is because as a self-contained teacher, we were trying to find what interests the kids the most, and for my background, it was science. And so that's what I got more involved in. But also part of my background is speech and language, because most kids have trouble with reading, have trouble with language skills.
Absolutely.
And so it all kind of collides together. And I find this fascinating that you're putting forth this as a business, and I can see how corporates could really see that as a niche to pull in to help their employees, or just in their work environment, how they can work with some of their higher end autistic people that might come to work for them, because that's a big possibility. And then the second thing is maybe going out to get your message out to other people. Somebody had suggested possibly going and doing presentations, which is wonderful to do. But the other thing is I noticed at the Route 66 festival last year, there was a chiropractor that's there, pushing out efforts. So maybe getting into some of those festival type things, to just have a table would be a great way to get your information out to the general public. Because that's who basically I think you're going to hit a lot, is the general public. But then through that, you can get into some of the corporates' information.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think working smarter, not harder is great. So I did do an event. There was an autism awareness event at Battlefield Mall a couple of months ago, and I had a booth there. So I would love those kinds of opportunities. What I've really found along my line of smarter, not harder, is bang for your buck in a private business is the corporate plans. So I can spend a whole lot of time doing family plans, which I enjoy. I just love doing those. But they are not at the same level of reimbursement as a corporate plan. So doing a lot of those events, I end up with a lot of interest in family plans, but not a lot of connections for corporate plans, unless I would like to get into some industry-specific, like association-type conventions. Like I did a presentation in the Missouri Speech and Hearing Association convention this last year, and gained a lot of interest from other speech pathologists there. So absolutely, those are great suggestions. Thank you. Another thing I wanted to suggest is an example of like a dentist's office. So I think there are some corporate plans, like you were talking about, corporations could really buy into this. I think one of those is, for example, a dentist's office, to give them the edge. If you see a lot of pediatric patients, a lot of those kids with communication disorders or autism have trouble going to see the dentist. So wouldn't it be a really big edge for your business if you could say, we have an expert behavior interventionist and communication specialist training our staff on how to work with your children when they come in for the dentist appointments? So I think the two tie in well.
To follow up with sort of the theme of marketing that's going on, I'm curious where most of your clients are currently coming from, if it's maybe your website or networking or referrals.
Yeah, it's really just word of mouth. So one of the clients came from, I'm a member of a Masterminds of Business group, and one of the clients came from another member in our group, a relative of hers, and I have several that will probably come from there. Like I said, it's being present. The one in Florida, I was actually in Florida and visiting a friend of mine who has some rental properties in Florida, and her property manager came to visit. We were hanging out, and she came with her daughter, and it turned into a 3-hour discovery session with her daughter that evening. And I get chills right now. She was just floored. Her daughter was 9 and had totally really been misdiagnosed for a long time and was so struggling. And it was just in that conversation, she's like, Shannon, this is life-changing. You have no idea how this changes. And it's really just a shift in how she's thinking about what's going on with her child to help know how to provide the best intervention and service. The corporate conversations that I've had, again, just come from people that I know. So who here knows of or has a family member with a communication disorder? Like everyone, yeah. I mean, and if you don't know that you know someone, you probably do. So for example, I have a disability. I have a profound high-frequency hearing loss. It doesn't affect our speech sound range, but I can't hear like the top 2 keys on a piano, which was funny to discover, by the way. My family, we bought a piano, and they thought I was crazy, saying, why doesn't this one work? And they're laughing at me, trying to decide if I'm joking or not. That was exciting.
That's how I discovered I needed glasses when my dad was making me read street signs, and it's like, you're in the 5th grade. That's no wonder you're a bad student. Okay. Isn't it funny how we all get into business? But sorry. So we always want to ask the question, what can we as a community do for you?
So I have a slide for that. So what's on the horizon for SL Speech and Language Solutions? Really, at this point, like I mentioned, I have not invested capital. I've invested my income into building this business, which means there's not a lot left. But what I'm looking for is someone to maybe trade services. Clearly, for my little Prezi, this is like a stock thing. I don't really know how to do that stuff. So I'd like to find someone who would like to trade services with me. I'd love to provide consultation for their family in exchange for someone to help with data entry and pulling information together, maybe building a website. You can find me and follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, but they're just my personal pages right now. I haven't built business pages yet. And looking for those corporate contracts. So, and training opportunities. And really, if there's someone who would like to get together with another professional and collaborate to build some seminars and workshops, I think that would be awesome. So I would love to hear from you.
Thank you.
Oh, I have my brochures and business cards out front, so please take one.
Thank you, Shannon. As you pointed out, I think a lot of us have family members or know someone who's touched by autism and other speech impediments and such. So we really appreciate you informing us. Thanks to all of you for coming out this morning on this beautiful morning that we have. I know it might have been a bit of a challenge to get here. I understand a lot of the lights were out and the power is out around town. So that accounts for the light crowd this morning. But we're glad to have you here because we want you to know about our announcements, which are Bowl for Kids' Sake. If you've never done this, it's a lot of fun, and you don't have to be a good bowler. It's really not about bowling. It's about big brothers, big sisters. We also have, this one's a new one. I hadn't seen it. Anyway, it's on July 9th, and at 9 p.m.
It's our guitarist out front. It's our guitarist out front.
Oh, our guitarist
He
out
wasn't here
front.
today.
I bet he's not out there this morning. Okay. And PostNet is hosting a social on Friday from 11 to 2. Be sure and stop by there. They're great people, and Vince is always here, and there's some other great people there to meet. Refine M has a training coming up, and it is on July 8th, which is this Friday, and another one in August. So check that out. I know we have some of their brochures out front, too. And Missouri State has some classes through their small business group. Is anybody here from Missouri State this morning? Aha, so Jake is here. You can see him. And the E-Factory, they still have $75,000 in tax credits available. Do we have anyone from the E-Factory here this morning? Okay. And Scholar Prep. I don't think Jordan's here this morning. I think she's traveling in the Far East, but I know that they have some great classes coming up, and if you have a student that's looking for scholarships or getting ready to head off to college, they're great people to see. And OSTEAM, Deb's here this morning. They have on the 15th, a week from Friday, an organizational meeting, so get involved with them. And August 4th, vacation rental. He presented a few weeks back, so he has a information session on the 4th also. And if you have an announcement that you would like to see up here on the screen and to share with other people, please let us know. Send your announcement to springfieldmo@1millioncups.com. And you can also find and follow us at 1 Million Cups SGF. You can tweet or like us on Facebook, so just get involved. We're a great group of people, and there's a lot of great networking opportunities here. And thank you very much, Shannon. We appreciate having you here this morning. Oh.
You're good. Just announce me if you want.
I was going to say, I have to introduce our next speaker. Which all of us know and love. Jonathan from Brick and Mortar Coffee is here to share his experience with us, an update.
Watch my movie.
I needed that, Bryce. Thank you. Well, thank you so much hello. killing me. One second. You can find my slide. I believe in you. So we presented, gosh, it was almost over a year ago for our first time we presented Brick and Mortar. We'd only been in business about 6 months when we presented. We are going to be celebrating our 2-year anniversary, well, our 3-year anniversary from the date we founded, like the LLC and everything, this August. So let me give you a little bit of background about Brick and Mortar. If you haven't heard me give the whole spiel, here you go. So Brick and Mortar was founded in 2013 out of a fit of entrepreneurial discontent, having worked in every coffee shop in the area, and deciding that I could do it better. I don't know, maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but you could be the judge. So we started, and I had been involved in education, research, real estate, kind of tried everything, always did coffee along the way. We have been in coffee for about 10 years. So when I bought this building over on St. Louis and Glenstone, it looked about like that. And if you guys have seen the new place, hopefully you can have some appreciation for how far it's come. So we bought the building for about $100,000, which is great because it's awesome. It's Springfield. You know, you can do that kind of thing. And then just did all the remodel ourselves. Me and a couple buddies just started demolishing the place that you can see there. So that's kind of how it looked when we first got it. This was our concept, though. We had it in mind. You know, we worked with Hood-Rich Architects, and they gave us a really great vision. It was really cold. We decided we got really ambitious. We unhooked everything, and then winter hit, and it was the worst winter since like 1977. And so here I am in there rewiring our heater. Like I've already unhooked it, and I hooked it back up so we wouldn't freeze to death. This was one day. That was a mess. That's looking at the back door if you've ever been there. That's a nice patio out there now. Yeah. And this is us pouring the board. So there really is like brick and mortar, blood and sweat in every little part of what we've done to make this place. It's ours. We did it on the cheap. You know, we wanted to get the whole project done for under $200,000, and we did. And it's just because we nickel and dimed our way through the whole thing. That's our head barista, Jordan, there, pouring concrete. And those counters are still beautiful to this day, and we just lucked out that he actually has a brother who's in concrete, so yay. This is our very first shipment of coffee. We got it about 6 months before we opened, and we roasted about 3,000 pounds of coffee just trying out some stuff, seeing if what we liked, and it was okay. We actually did the work ahead of time, so when we opened, we had a product that was ready for launch. When I was roasting at home on my kitchen counter and in my garage, my wife finally kicked me out to the garage, I was storing my coffee in mason jars, and I thought, man, what a cool thing. And so this actually is the original package that we were using to store all of our sample roasted coffee, and it turned into our actual retail package. If you go to Mama Jean's, this is the package you see on the shelf now. One more kind of progress step, a sign. Oh, our cold brew. I still swear to this day we were the first one in the nation to really develop a nitro cold brew for commercial use, and then everyone stole my idea. Starbucks, whatever. They'll write me a check one day, it's okay. And then the day before we opened, we were like, we don't have trays. We don't have trays. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna serve coffee? We're like, well, we have these, like, they had a mountain of these little sample trays we're using for the green beans. So pretty much everything in Brick and Mortar is like beautifully cobbled together, the trays being one example. So before and after, and that's what we do. So Brick and Mortar is Springfield's independent coffee roasting company. We say independent because we don't have a dog in the fight. We're not trying to compete with you at Kingdom or at Coffee Ethic or at Hebrews or any of the coffee shops around the area. We have a tasting room, much like going to a winery to have a glass of wine. Coming to our tasting room is much more like going to a tasting room. So coffee, roasting, slow bar, that's just coffee made by hand, made to order. Espresso, and we do training, and this is one of the things people don't really know about us, so I want to kind of hit on that a little bit. Our very first client, we actually consulted all the way from their concept at a SCORE meeting all the way through to their open date. So we did design their menu, their bar, their plumbing, their electrical, their square system, trained all their staff, and they opened up as sort of like our flagship model of what it means to be like a brick and mortar client. And if you know anybody that needs coffee, that's a great place to plug in. So we opened, again, like I didn't say this before, but my goal was to be open by the time I was 30. I had this like dread that whatever I was doing when I was 30 years old was going to be what I was doing the rest of my life. And so the day before my 31st birthday, we opened, and I was really happy about that. So happy birthday to me there. And that's the finished product, and we're very proud of it. So Brick and Mortar, we put it on the wall what we believe. We really do stand by our values. We do everything out of some sort of principle And we've laid the foundation on these three of craftsmanship, community, and culture. Craftsmanship, because without a good product, without good, foundational, quality, no matter how pretty it is, no matter how you dress it up, it's still not gonna carry the weight of what people are wanting what they expect. Community is that property where you give back. I participate in 1 Million Cups because I believe in community. I believe that this is more important to me, even just giving coffee away, because that is more important to me than trying to just do it for the money, do it for the success or the fame of it. If you don't build community along the way, you really kind of failed, I think, in my estimation. And then lastly, culture is changed when you do those things. When you develop a great product, when you build a community around that product, the culture can be changed. And in a city like Springfield, I'm asked a lot, why Springfield? Why would you start here? Because you can change anything if you don't like it. You can start from scratch and build from the ground up. And I think all of you in this room would agree, Springfield is ripe, and you can go anywhere and do anything you want. So just some numbers. So that's kind of like a little recap of our first presentation. I'm going to hit these real quick, and you guys can ask some questions. So growth, since we opened, now we've got almost 2 years under our belt. We've enjoyed about 30%. I took all the numbers off, so you can ask me later. Anyway, about 30% growth with peaks and valleys, but about a nice 30% growth month over month, year over year. Over our very first year, it was like 168% or something ridiculous because we were only open like 2 months, but. It was more than that, but anyway, and that's the front of the house. We have two sides. We have the front and the back. The front is is our tasting room, and it's designed to be very minimalist. If you go in there and there's nobody there, that's probably because we're doing it right. We want people to have individualized experience. There's only about 12 seats in the whole building. Our occupancy is 15. If you've ever been to one of our parties, don't tell the fire marshal. Yeah. But that's front of house growth has been slow and steady. Back of house growth has been all over the place. These are orders per month. These are individual orders. So we went from starting out around 200, jumped to about 500 in our third month open, and now we're doing between 800 and 600, 700, and kind of jumping around there and growing again about 30% since that first little bit. So good, I like it. What that means, and this is what's kind of fun, and so we get into this. Why? Great social media stuff. So Facebook is sort of our middle child. It doesn't really do what we ever think it was going to do, but whatever, So it grows just slow and steady all the time. Like us on Facebook, please. But Brick and Mortar Coffee on Instagram has been our greatest storyteller, and we started from the very beginning just committing to posting once a day, and that's what we've done ever since. And we've grown that to about 6,000 followers, number one Instagram for coffee in Springfield and more than a few others. And then Twitter, our poor little stepchild down there who never gets used, because I'm supposed to be the one that does it, and I never do it. So anyway, true story. Since also, we've had some great success from 1 Million Cups, working with Jump 6 Marketing. We've gone from being, 8th to being the number one coffee shop in Springfield, according to all the listings on Google and Bing and Google Plus and everything. So that's a great success. Very modest investment to get to be number one on Coffee Springfield, search. So what we're announcing today is our 1 millionth cup, which is kind of cool because this is 1 million cups, right? So how do we figure this out? Well, having all those charts and all that stuff, we figure out, well, how many pounds have we actually gone through? And in reality, we've gone through almost 45,000 pounds of coffee in the first 2 years of business, which is pretty awesome. So that's the list of the coffees we've been through. About 47 different origins. If you can read really closely, and I don't expect you to. All the information about all our coffees right there, the secret cheat sheet. So 1 million cups, 20 grams a cup, that's 20 million grams of coffee, or about 45,000 pounds. That's a quarter pound of coffee for every person in Springfield. It's pretty good. 300 burlap bags of coffee, 43 individual regions from farmers, agents, co-ops, exporters, importers, local coffee shops, and missions organizations. Even got some from Haiti from a guy who brought it back in his luggage. I counted it. When you roast that coffee, we've generated over 5,400 pounds of water vapor. That's how much coffee I've lost from roasting, which is really sad. Generated about a ton of chaff and paper, which we recycled every single bit of it. Brick and Mortar is a zero-waste facility because we believe in that sort of thing. On average, we roast about 60 pounds of coffee a day, which is modest, but we roast it usually on 1 or 2 days a week, so it's usually quite a bit more than that. That's 90,000 gallons of coffee that you, yes you, have contributed to. So Thank you very much. That's enough to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool 15% of the way up, so keep drinking. And it's full production of 45 acres of coffee. And why is that? So we have great clients, and I know I'm going long, but these are some of our clients that have made this possible. Not all of them are still with us, but most of them still are. Aviary, Early Bird, VB Chocolate, Hood Rich, Kingdom Coffee, Wheelhouse, Just for Him, Art Museum, Connect Church, Springfield Brewing Company, Jack's Beans, Donut Lounge, great place in Kansas City, Mother Road Coffee, Grayson Home, JOB, Foxhole, Benissimo, Gelato. The International Wine Center serves us if you go there for lunch. They have our coffee. Piney River Collaboration, the Seventh Trumpet Imperial Stout, fantastic. Metropolitan Farmer Walkabout Coffee, Angel's Cup, People-Centric Consulting Group, Sugarfit Barbecue Nukes, Mama Jean's Joplin Greenhouse, E-Factory, Second Baptist Church, 40 Digits Homegrown Foods, Tiff's Natural Market, and Ben's in the Square, Common Grounds, Hudson Hawk Flame, Missouri Spirit House, and now soon to be in Price Cutter. So, very excited. Thank you guys so much for listening to my little shtick, and I will love to hear your questions. Thanks, bye.
I'm going to make a quick comment. So I was telling someone this morning that I grew up in a Mormon household in a Mormon community, and we did not have coffee. If you know Mormons, they don't drink coffee. Or if they do, they sneak it far away from town.
Right.
And so I moved to Missouri, and then I opened a coffee shop. And my parents were horrified. And the only thing that offset that was the fact that I was baking. So there was, my baking side was kind of offset the fact that I had coffee in my shop. And I can tell you to this day, if I open up a package of coffee, freshly roasted, there is nothing better in this entire world. And if I could dive into it, I would. So my poor parents, that's my little sin that I commit, my cup of coffee every day. And he does the terrific job of it. So, okay, questions?
Cricket.
Good job.
Okay, so I have a question. Go figure. What's your capacity? And so, are you wanting to build additional storefronts, or are you wanting to do more just sales?
That's something we're talking about when we look at the future. We don't plan on building additional roasting facilities, but we plan on building additional tasting rooms. So just like, if you ever been to Stone Winery out of Herman, Missouri, they grow it all in Herman. But they have a tasting room down in Branson. It's a market they want to reach, that they plant a little tasting room down there. It's a nice way to introduce people to the product in an area. So as we look at new markets, we'll plan on planting new tasting rooms in places like St. Louis, Kansas City, and Fayetteville, Arkansas, to kind of just start. We have a concentric growth model, starting locally, moving out regionally, and then kind of nationwide. Although you can get us nationwide right now. So anyway, yes, a little bit. Oh, capacity. So our roaster can roast about 100 pounds. About 80 pounds an hour. So we can do, if there was just one kind of coffee we were doing, we can roast it all pretty quick. That gives us, if you roast, 8 hours a day, 640 pounds a day. If you were just flat out burning all the city's natural gas, you could do that. Yeah. We don't really want to do that. It would break our stuff. So that's why we have a little guy. If you've ever been in the shop, we have two side by side, the big one for all the hard work, and then if that one ever breaks, you have the little one. And then we could limp along at about 200 pounds a day. So.
I have a kind of an off-the-wall question. Okay. Your location.
Yes.
I find it very interesting. You see the way coffee shops tend to gravitate either toward the south side or downtown Commercial Street. You guys are kind of off to the side in an interesting spot there. And I'm curious, first of all, what went into that specific decision? It'd be easy to look right over that building as you go by before you guys came in. And also just looking around, I wondered if you guys have kind of a vision, or you imagine the potential for that strip there, and how you expect it would affect you as a business.
You're speaking my language, man. So I love kind of property development stuff. So that was like this pitiful little corner that nothing was done with. It was an old insurance office, an old motorcycle shop, and that's actually how I found it. It was my motorcycle shop. It was Bill F. had Chubby Customs out of there that I took my Harley Sportster to, and he would work on it. I just kind of fell in love with the building and saw its potential. It was just a hole, and the price was right, for me getting into it. Getting a commercial space for $100,000 is pretty great, I thought, and then we did some work to it, obviously. But then now we've purchased the property on either side of it as well. We own the property there where the Wheelhouse is located, and the former Shikani Insurance Office, which houses the Catherine Hanaway for Governor campaign. And the goal is to develop the Wheelhouse building on our east into a commercial kitchen space, which we're doing right now, presently, and then eventually turn the building on our west into a little, maybe a boutique shop or something as we go. But it's a law office for now, and it probably will be for the near future. But we want to improve all three properties together. And in fact, a funny story is they used to all be one property. The original building, built in 1951, was called Togery Cleaners, and the family lived in the one on the west. They rented the one on the east, and their business was the business in the middle. And I think it's kind of cool to have them all kind of reunited again. So, anyway.
So, I love the coffee. I love how you create a story behind the coffee, which is really fun too, because you have the origins and all that. But in this world of commercialization, where did you think that you were so good that you could just create a better coffee? Or is it about a better coffee? What is it that enables you to have the success you're having when we see more and more of the world just becoming commercialized, standardized, and shipped out, and the world's going that way, and then you pick this path?
Well, and it's not that the whole world's going that way. 30% of people are drinking specialty coffee, and about 30% of those people are drinking what we call third wave coffee, like brick and mortar. We knew that if we put a stake in the ground and started something really cutting edge, bleeding edge, that it would be attractive in its own way. And that's been one source of success. And the commercialization, people react against it. I don't know if you guys have seen that with the eat local trends, with the farm to table sort of trends. People want that kind of transparency, or certain people want that kind of transparency, and they clamor for it. And those people that really get that are really loud talkers too. And well, it's true. You guys are like opinionated. Like when you ask somebody about eating local, they're like, no, you can't eat at McDonald's. And let me tell you why. I hate you, but I love you too, because that's why something like brick and mortar succeeds, is because you have, you just get this cutting edge group of opinion makers, and they talk about it, and it grows on its own. So commercialization will go on as it has, and we'll go on as we have, and we'll be happy and content with our little niche.
Hi, my name is Graham. I work for nonprofit I Pour Life. Fantastic presentation. I love the values behind the company. My question is, are there any sustainable efforts with your growers internationally, and if not, are there plans to do so in the future?
Yeah, we almost exclusively work with farmers that practice sustainable growing methods. Most of the farmers we work with are very small and can't afford the certifications. And so, like when we sell to Mama Jeans, we had to present before their board and explain to them why we don't have organic certification and why that's actually better. How you make turning a negative into a positive, But all the small farmers can't even afford fertilizer. So if you know them and you're working with good people, they're going to do a good job. And so that's what we've been doing. We do origin trips, so we travel to the country, meet the farmer, develop a relationship with them, buy directly from them. We've done that with several farms at this point now. One of our most popular coffees, if you guys have ever eaten at the Early Bird, the Brazil that they serve comes directly from our client in Brazil, who we met as a student from Missouri State. Does that answer your question? Sorry. Okay, cool.
Awesome. Great presentation. Thanks for all you do. So I'm just kind of curious. You have an incredible brand. You do quite a bit for the community. What is your vision moving forward?
No idea.
No idea. Still working on it.
Making it up as I go.
That works.
I really think that, with the maker spaces, the entrepreneurial community, like in Springfield, we're kind of right on the cusp of a huge, and we are seeing a huge revitalization in young people getting into business. And that's what inspires me to see is people just like you guys who get the bug, get that entrepreneurial itch, have a little temper tantrum in your brain and just go for it. And I don't know, I see that's like the near-term future, but long-term, I see companies that are built to last, and that's what I see for brick and mortar. And one of the reasons why it's named brick and mortar is so often people are in it for the quick buck. We're not in it for explosive growth. We're in it for slow and steady, measurable gains over time that we can sustain indefinitely. It's not a flash in the pan thing. We work really hard to keep our costs low. We have a staff of 4.5 that make it possible. We do everything by hand, and I don't know, I see a future in that kind of business in Springfield.
Well, the last question we always like to ask, what can we as a community do for you?
Well, first thing, on our website, brickandmortarcoffee.com, on the second little pane there, if you click to follow our progress, it's going to ask you for your email. If you do that today, every one of you could come into Brick and Mortar and get a free jar of coffee. So that'd be one thing you can do. I would appreciate that. The second thing is, of course, just drink the stuff. But you know, I always need encouragement. You know, as an entrepreneur, I know you guys know this, but like, it's not all like easy and fun. Like, you get to stand on the stage one day, but every other day. You know, I have my wife and my youngest daughter have like food poisoning at home right now. So you know, like, just if every once in a while, just say it's okay, man. It's okay. And I mean, I look forward to coaching and things like I see guys who are up here on the stage offering business coaching, and so many of y'all are so much wiser and more experienced than me. And I drop the ball a ton, and I just need someone and anybody and you to just be a little bit, you know, encouragement to me because it's tough. It's tough being that guy out front. But yeah, check out our website, order coffee from us, talk us up. If you know a restaurant, a coffee shop that's starting, that's like my perfect client. If I can get my hands on them like right up front and like, oh, I'm just going to take you through the whole thing. It'll be great. It'll be fine. You'll be fine. That kind of person who's in that world is a perfect contact for me. So thank you so much. Talk to me afterwards. Do sign up online. Come by Brick and Mortar, 1666 East St. Louis Street for free jar of coffee when you sign up. I'll be checking. Thanks.
Great. Isn't he fantastic? Jonathan, thanks for all that you do for 1 Million Cups and for the community. Really appreciate the donation of coffee every single week. Isn't that incredible? Can you give him another hand? So we're all honored to be a part of the 1 Million Cups team, and we're so glad every week to have you guys join us. And I would like to have one of our founding organizers, Sterling Huff. He's going to speak on behalf of the 1 Million Cups team, talking about Deb Bellotti, and we appreciate all that she has done to be a part.
Good morning. Deb is getting ready to graduate to that past organizer status, and she's done a fabulous job. About a year into 1 Million Cups, Devin and Chad and myself started looking at each other and saying, you know, we can't do this forever. Number one, we don't have the time, and number two, 1 Million Cups in Kansas City is getting tired of seeing us all the time, so we started looking around for somebody. Actually, we were thinking of several people to take our place, and we were really wanting a female. We wanted someone with entrepreneurial experience, someone who wanted to invest the time. And you know, there's a lot of time involved in this that people don't see. And we got to know Deb at her Mormon coffee shop, I guess, which I didn't really know that story. That's a good story. So she's been along for the ride and has done a really fabulous job, put in the time. And also I want to say a big thank you to Deb and all the other organizers for making the transition from the E-Factory to this space. I think it's really worked out really well, and a big thank you to all those organizers. Please give them a hand. So, Deb, if you would come out, I know I'd like for you to say a few words. And again, I just want to tell you thank you for all the time and all the help. Great.
I'll tell you what, they used to come in my Mormon shop, this is true, and talk about 1 Million Cups and what they were doing, because it was the beginning stages, and they were trying really hard to make sure that they had great presentations, and so I know they were meeting. And I had heard about it, and I hadn't been able to attend because, as you all know, when you have a shop like that, you are there. So as soon as we sold the shop, the first place I went was 1 Million Cups because I wanted to see the presentations. And they were kind enough to let me get involved. And honestly, it was a huge honor to be involved. And it's been one of the best things that I have ever done. I have met the greatest people, people who are trying so hard to make the community a better place. So.
In case you wonder, those that are founding organizers and organizers that do transition out over time after their 12 to 18 month time period, we stay close, they stay involved, they continue to come, and we always love to hear their feedback and input. So thank you guys again for coming, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Make it a great week.
Don't take fame, don't need no credit card to ride.
Shannon, thanks so much for presenting today. I know it's always exciting, exhilarating to get up in front of the audience and share your story. It sounds like you have a really interesting one and what I find intriguing is how much time you spent in that field. I mean, obviously, you're a fantastic technician of speech, therapy. Is that right? Speech and language therapy. So, I know as a coffee person that it takes, this magical number to get sort of to mastery of 10,000 hours of doing. You've done it for that long?
I really have never counted. That I think would make me really tired if I tried to count. So I appreciate coming. But yeah, and building this program has been a total progression for me. Like you said you actually incorporated about 3 years ago. So did I, but it looked incredibly different then. What it looks like now, probably just since February. Yeah.
It's exciting. It's fun to see that growth. It's also, always personally challenging. How have you balanced, home with work and all that?
Yeah, so I'm really still figuring that out and trying to figure out how to work smarter, not harder, and I think that's in moving more into those corporate plans and try to have a bigger impact that way too. So I do have a pretty big background and it's pretty diverse, so the opportunity to bring that in and affect a lot of change, hopefully maybe even some major medical healthcare kind of change in the future.
That'd be awesome. Of course, we always want to conclude with a question of what can we as a community do to be helping you?
So right now, I really just need to find someone that's willing to exchange services with me because I'm really good at being a clinician and providing and making connections, but I'm not really good at, data entry and building an online presence. So finding someone who wants to exchange services with me would be great, as well as finding those connections with those corporate partners.
Thank you so much.
Jonathan, great presentation this morning. Obviously, we've heard you before, but you put obviously a new twist on it. Personally, I find the refills more interesting sometimes than the initial presentation. But I'd like for you to talk a little bit more about where you're going. You were a bit flippant on your answer, and I get it, but I'm curious, really, what is your end game? Is it continue this slow growth for 10 years, or is there something bigger there?
I think a couple big milestones that we want to hit are we want to make sure that we have good saturation with the markets we're already in and everyone is well satisfied. As we expand by planting tasting rooms, our focus is still on business-to-business sales, just like we've done here. So slow growth, but multiply it out on multiple locations rather than just one epicenter. The second avenue for that is to vertically integrate our process. So we're looking at buying farms in Central and South America so we can be growing our own coffee that we're also roasting. So kind of two avenues of approach, one increasing demand, one increasing supply, and reducing costs to ultimately help bottom line.
So what's your footprint look like right now, or what's the next growth location?
If you asked me today, it's St. Louis is the least coffeed per capita in the next sort of stepping region around where we're at. We have one place in St. Louis that we currently supply, and we'd like to have 20. We'd like to have 40 up there that we're supplying, and we very easily could. There's very few people roasting up there. There's actually less people roasting in St. Louis than there are roasting in Springfield, which is kind of funny. So if we can break into that market and start getting our coffee that way, we were on a good track. And we've already had some great traction there. We already won Feast Magazine's Best Coffee in the state twice in a row, which is a St. Louis publication. So we've got good PR up there for sure.
So who is your main competition, both Springfield and maybe in St. Louis? Is there one big company, or are there a lot of smaller roasters?
Yeah, a lot of small ones. In Springfield, there's not really anybody that's doing an independent approach, like not having their own dog in the fight, as it were, their own cafe that's also roasting. So Heroes is the closest example, and they're our nearest thing to competition. Copper Canyon Roasters sells mostly to the East Coast, but they're doing the great things here too, following a tasting room model like we did. So there's more that are getting into kind of the what's called third wave coffee, like we are. So
there was a question this morning where someone, I think, was basically asking,
coffee is a commodity like a lot of things, and all of a sudden you've taken that and gone someplace else with it. So I guess there's a story there which says no matter how long something's been around, no matter how pervasive it is, there's always a niche, there's always a twist or a pivot.
Yeah. And we really believe that it all comes down to what we call, I think I mentioned before, third wave coffee, which is this emphasis on the green, the quality of the green bean, the relationship from roaster to farmer and from drinker to farmer, and how that can be as transparent as possible. And the style of roasting we practice is very much embracing of that trend, which is a very new trend. And so we go out of our way to make sure we have great information about our farmers, have a great relationship with those farmers. And that is in itself a niche, but it also makes for better coffee.
Those of us that do a lot of presentations get comfortable in front of people. And you obviously are very comfortable in front. You're able to take deep breaths and you're able to tell funny stories, et cetera. Where did you come up with that?
I was a pastor for a couple of years, and they threw me in front every once in a while. And I'm still terribly nervous when I get on stage, by the way. But I had a great TED talk that was shared with me that just said that nerves are your body's way of telling you this is important, And so take a deep breath and just knock it out of the park.
Well said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.